Welcome back, humble traders. Today I'll be doing a technical breakdown on Alibaba, ticker symbol BABA. Do note that I do not provide any buy or sell calls. Instead, I focus on the potential traps laid out by the market makers. Always remember, the stock market is never obvious. It is designed to fool most of people most of the time. Without further ado, let's take a look at Alibaba. So Alibaba did not close the week very well, even though we started off pretty well. So let's take a look at what exactly happened and some of the traps that were laid out by the market makers. So you can see that last week we actually had a very much like a fake breakout above this very strong level of support at about 108 to 110. We managed to break above this, but it did not hold for very long. And then thereafter, we managed to close at about 108. So on the very next Monday, on about the 21st of March, we did see a very healthy expected pullback to just below 100 levels. So this is one of the locations where market makers actually trap certain retails to cut losses or even turn short. Because if $100 is a psychological support, then most people will be putting their stop losses at about 98 to 99. And most of those people who are shorting, they'll enter at these price levels. So just before the market makers intend to push the prices up, what they intend to do is to flush out all the retail investors who panic sold at 98, 99, and thereafter they push up the prices the very next day. So that is a very common breaking down of a very strong level of support. And thereafter we saw a very immense climb all the way to about 124, which is quite impressive. However, you need to take note that once again, we were being trapped by the market makers because we did not actually had a very good and convincing breakout. So what do I mean by good and convincing breakout? So you can see that when there is too much strength in the stock, there is always a tendency to pull back down. So you can see that there was a very sudden green candle here above 120 levels, and thereafter we see a very bearish looking candle that appears to be like this. So when there's green candles appearing, right, usually what happens is that retail investors who did not manage to buy here, they want to FOMO in when they see a sudden increase in prices. And that is actually the best time for market makers to actually throw down the stock back down to trap all these longs who actually FOMO in thinking that we are breaking out. So if you look at the daily chart, you can see that one good thing is that we actually managed to close these two gaps here. So this was the first gap that needed to be closed, and then one more gap here that needed to be closed was just around 124. And you can see that once we close this gap, we managed to pull back down. So that is quite normal. Gaps are meant to be closed, and after it's being closed, it can go either direction. I can see that this Ichimoku cloud here is being rejected off the cloud. So it shows that on the way up, cloud will act as a resistance, and on the way down, cloud will act as a support. And even though this cloud is very thin, I did give a midweek warning that we may see a pullback upon hitting these clouds. So moving on, where exactly are my supports for next week, and which supports I'll be watching for and which resistance I'll be watching for? It seems like the market makers may tend to close this gap. So in the event that Hong Kong market were to open and did not really close very well, then I foresee the market makers trying to close this gap about 105. So now the gap is about 105 to around say about 109, 108, these levels. So this gap may be closed first before market makers try to push it back up and try to reattempt to clear this 124 resistance. So first support I'll be watching at is about 104, 105. This is a very crucial support. So yep, this is the first support for the week. And in the event that we break down again, I'm not exactly sure where is the support, but it seems that 98, 99 may be retested. And in the event that most people cut losses here about 98, 99, then we may potentially flip up. The worst case scenario that I can expect the pullback to be is about 91 to 92. So I don't expect BABA to pull back below this 91 to 92 unless it's really very weak and the sentiment is very bad due to the distinct fears. But I don't expect us to go below these levels. Hitting 104 and manage to close the gap may be sufficiently good enough to shake off many retail investors. So after which we had a very good pullback to about say 104. Then we will intend to test back this 124 levels again. And in the event that we manage to break out from this 124 level, I am actually looking at about 138 levels immediately, because it seems like we had a pullback down from a high of 124 And the next resistance that I'm looking at is actually this 128. So you need to be very careful of this 138 resistance, because 138 resistance here, they may do a fake breakout when we reach here. But of course, it's still far away. I don't expect it to actually reach it next week unless there's a very strong momentum in the Hong Kong market and the sentiment were to change. Then we may potentially see this 138 next week. But of course, we need to not forget about this cloud and 124 resistance, because it now it become a resistance for Alibaba. So we need to clear this 124 with good volume. If you do not clear 124 with good volume, then we may form more double top, and double top will send prices back down once again, retreating to perhaps about 115 or 118 levels. So yeah, looking at MACD, we lost a bit of momentum, but overall it still looks quite good. So there's nothing to worry too much about, unless 92 were to break down, and that's really a cause for concern. So yeah, if there's any changes, I'll give you guys an update. Thanks for stopping by, and don't forget to subscribe as you'll keep the update on channel intact. Leave a comment below on your thoughts, or if you have any other stock TA requests. Till we meet again, appreciate the manipulation.